Hey, how's it going? This is Jules Dan from Body Mind Biohacking. Hey, in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about what is actually EMF, its impact on our health, and of course, 5 tips to reduce your EMF exposure. Okay, let's jump straight into it. All right, guys, and if you haven't already done so, guys, I'm really small at the moment. I would absolutely love if you would hit subscribe and like, and maybe leaving a comment about any sort of thing about EMF. I would love to get this channel growing. I've got plenty more good stuff for you coming up. So what is EMF? Electromagnetic field. Basically, you have 2 kinds. You've got the more common non-ionizing radiation. In English, that means we got Wi-Fi, we've got Bluetooth radiation coming out, heat radiation coming out of your phone and your laptops. And then you've got the less common, that's your ultraviolet and your X-ray and your gamma rays. And also in English, what those mean are sort of examples. You got the sun for your ultraviolet, you got X-rays as your X-ray, and then you've got an A-bomb as an example of gamma rays. So probably not as common as the other first few. Okay, so what is the big deal about EMF? Isn't it safe that we get to use it all? Well, there's a growing scientific body that's saying that all this electromagnetic frequency bouncing around everywhere, it has a negative impact on our physiology.
Yeah, I know, man. That guy's an idiot. He thinks that phones causes radiation cancer.
Let me read for you some negative side effects that have been documented. Okay, number 1, we've got fatigue, we've got brain fog, we've got insomnia, irritability, we've got reduced immune function, we've got functional decrease to reproductive systems. That can't be good, I imagine. And then we've got learning and memory deficit. Okay, that is some pretty shocking stuff that I'm hearing, if I'm not. Yeah, basically, it's not a good idea to have lots of EMF around you. Now, what are some real big culprits of this EMF, you might be asking? Okay, so we've got, like I mentioned before, Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi smart meters, especially if you're in an apartment and you've got lots of smart meters all bundled up together. You know, your 3G and your 4G frequency that's coming off the cell towers and out of your pocket. Bluetooth. All of these are very high frequency sort of types of EMF.
Bro, I know, right? When was the last time a big company even misled everyone?
So you might be thinking, I know what you're thinking, Jules, take off your conspiracy hat off. Why would these companies allow such a dangerous sort of thing? I was thinking the exact same thing. And then I was looking around and I heard some other people talking about it. And I looked into the science of it. And 240 scientists, I had known about this, 240 scientists appealed to the UN in 2015 saying that there needed to be a change in the standards of EMF frequency in all products, that the public need to be educated about the dangers of EMF, and that manufacturers need to change the way that they produce it to produce less EMF. I had no idea about this until about a couple months back. Did you?
Hey, man. Yeah, I'm actually just reading Jules Dan's blog right now. He's saying that it's even on the Apple website that you shouldn't even put the phone to your hand. What?
Okay, guys, here's where it gets super interesting. All right, so I'm not crazy. I'm going to Apple's main website, the legal part of the website. So I go to the iPhone X, the latest iPhone's legal page on exposure to energy, also like exposure to radiation. All right, and on there it says, all the testing is done to stimulate the radiation between your phone and your skull within 5 millimeters. And then you're gonna be thinking like, who is holding their phone a 0.5 millimeter away from the ear? No one. I don't ever see that. It's always glued like this. Okay, that's interesting fact number 2. Interesting fact number 1. Number 2 is that everyone has their phone in their pockets. And I always see women at the gym with the phone in their bras, right? When they're listening to music. Okay, there is not 5.5, there's not 0.5 centimeter or 5 millimeters of gap between your clothing and say your leg, or even worse, your genital area. That's some pretty thick pants that you got right there, 5 millimeters or more to guard that. Okay, so we don't even know if they're testing for at the edge of that 5 millimeter or at the start. They're just saying it's within 5 millimeters. So there's some definite ambiguity in that statement there. This last bit was definitely like the nail in the coffin that I had to bring this up with you guys. All right, directly from the website, I quote, "To reduce exposure to RF energy, use a hands-free option such as the built-in speakerphone, the supplied headphones, or other similar accessories." Okay, does that sound like to you? Yeah, you can use it next to your skull, but you probably want to use something else just to be safe. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? It's kind of strange, don't you reckon?
Man, more reading into this, it's just scarier. Why haven't the government even said anything about this?
So here's where it gets interesting when I dove deeper into the EMF rabbit hole. All right, so in November 1st, 2018 this year, the US Toxicology Association body, whatever you want to call it, they released a 10-year study about EMF exposure. Not on humans though, on animals, on rats. And they found a definitive causal link between high exposure of these high frequency EMFs, specifically cell sort of radiation. Okay, so what they found was that there was clear evidence that 2G and 3G, that's the old school infrastructure for cell towers and everything else, there was clear evidence of tumors in the heart and some evidence of tumors in the brain. And if I'm not mistaken, 2G and 3G was maybe 5 years ago or 3 years ago. We're currently in 4G at the moment. What's going to happen when it gets to 5G in 2020? That's a good question, and I went even deeper into this. Why is no one talking about the impacts of 5G on our health? All right, so a quick little crash course on the difference between 4G and 5G. So I had no idea what this were, but okay, so picture we got like cell towers like here. So one communicates here and one communicates here. And let's say this is 4G at the moment, and this uses microwave technology to get to. So signal here, and these are cell towers, right? But with 5G, it requires millimeter frequency radiation, and it's a crap ton faster in terms of speed in the technology, which is a good thing for that reason. But they need to put up little tiny cell towers everywhere for them to communicate. So it has to be like ding, 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 everywhere across the street. So currently in Australia, we don't have that yet, but I've read in the US, they got a rollout sort of beta infrastructure of 5G. And all these little mini cell towers are popping up more frequently everywhere. And that's a really bad thing, really bad.
Bro, I need this fast internet to get my Instagram videos up. I don't care about everyone else.
So 5G, ding, 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 like really close next to each other. Then what happens is that these millimeter waves or whatever, research into this, the last 2 years, they found that they interact with our sweat gland ducts in a negative way. So all this EMF is disrupting the electrical pathways in our brain. This is the simplest way of putting it I can make it for you. So it's disrupting the electrical pathways, which impacts the way your cells talk to each other, which impacts your immune function. It has all these other side effects like headaches, increased risk of cancer, everything else. Just not a good mix. Now we got all the bad stuff out of the way. Now let me give you the 5 tips that you're gonna need to use to reduce your EMF exposure. Okay, tip number 1, and that is getting off your phone when it is like this next to your ear and choosing to use headphones or using hands-free when you're doing that. And the reason why you're doing that is you're minimizing exposure directly to your skull. And there's another recent study that came out in 2017. I can show a little screenshot, and there is a lot of radiation that's going on when you have direct contact with the phone and your skull. Number 2 is you want to try and minimize contact with the phone or anything else that's right next to your pocket, especially if next to your genitals. It's not a good thing. Okay, so what I like to use is my backpack when I'm walking around and have my headphones in there, or you can just swipe it on onto flight mode, and that's a really easy way of doing it. You can also put your phone onto flight mode when you're going to sleep, and that is another great way to reduce the EMF exposure, especially if you have your phone next to your head inside of your room, which is a terrible idea. But if you do choose to do that for an alarm or whatever, just put it on flight mode. All right, tip number 4, and that is opting to use wide Ethernet technology instead of wireless as much as you can. Now, it might be pretty hard, but as much as you can, try and use those wide cables into your laptop, into your computers as best you can, because you're trying to minimize that EMF exposure around you. And another little quick tip is that when you go to sleep, you don't really need Wi-Fi. So try and minimize your exposure as much as you can by just turning off your modem at night and then just turning it back on when you need to. All right, and the last tip that I can give you is to use an EMF shielding technology. So like either a laptop sort of benchtop when you're working on your computer, have a little EMF thing underneath, and that's going to minimize the radiation that's in contact with you. And also, when you have your phone, there's a phone case that's also available to reduce the EMF exposure that's in your pocket, because that's the worst thing you want is that EMF exposure next to your genitals. All right, and fun fact, actually, I'm actually trying to create my own product of those EMF shielding products, so either headphones or a phone case, so definitely be on the lookout for those.
Alright guys, that is it for today's video. If you really like this content, you should go check out my Instagram. I drop daily content just like this. And of course, if you want deeper, sort of granular content, I have linked down below my blog, and that's got a bit more detail, all the references I've been talking about. Yeah, anyway, this is Jules Dan from Body Mind Biohacking. I'll see you next week.